Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be another piece of the Pastel Dragon collection that I recently finished. It comes with a couple of different pieces, including one art doll, two small decadent pieces, two large decadent pieces, and two dragon heads. So this video is going to be about how I created those two dragon heads. I originally done these dragon heads based off like Game of Thrones dragons, but slightly kind of different looking. And I had a couple of these casts left over, so I decided to add them to the dragon collection. I really like the way these ones come out. I spent a lot of time sculpting these, and I have a couple of those videos over on my YouTube if you want to see the process of how I sculpted all these things. They were sculpted out of monster clay, molded in silicone, and then cast in resin. So these are the resin pieces, and I sculpted them to be able to change the lower jaw parts, so I could cast them into like two different types of dragons. So one would be a closed mouth dragon, and then the other one is the open mouth dragon. So in doing so, when I cast these two parts, I sort of have to combine them together. It's a little bit of process work with these particular ones, using some epoxy sculpt. So basically I join the two pieces together with the mouth closed one. Before I joined the pieces together, I painted the inside of the mouth so there was paint inside, because it's virtually impossible to get anything inside there, just so it's not like a weird white inside of the mouth, like it kind of made it unfinished. And then basically just closing it together and sculpting in all of those little areas that need to be, like where all the pore spouts are and stuff, with some epoxy sculpt, and smoothing it out and just basically sculpting into the resin head. So with this resin head, I always prime these pieces before I paint them. It just basically gives us the surface like a nice tooth for the paint to stick to, because resin is really smooth, so the paint's quite easy to scratch off. So if you prime your resin pieces beforehand, you'll find that the paint lasts a lot longer and it's a lot stronger as well. So I was kind of in two minds about how I wanted to paint these pieces, and I just sort of went with the flow with both. I had a rough idea of what I wanted to do, and one was sort of like a gradient rainbow, but I hadn't decided on the rainbow yet. I was going to do like a purple, blue, pink gradient on the rainbow one, but and then this one would be more of a something to match the art doll. So for this one, it kind of looks like a baby blue and pink camo underneath. But the paints that I'm using are water-based acrylic paints, and one is by the brand Rivian Matisse, the other one's by the brand Chromacryl. The blue one is, I've mixed it myself, and the pink one comes in this color. The reason why I mixed these colors myself is I don't think you can really find baby blues like this anyway, but I wanted to I had a vision in my head on what I wanted the colors to look like, so it's just easier to mix them. And then once I'm happy with that camo undertone look, I decided to dry brush over the top of all of the details, just so it brings it out and adds a bit more of that purple dimension over the top of it. So it's the same sort of process that I did with the art doll as well, where I had that pink and baby blue undertone with a purple over like a dry brush over the top. And the same sort of deal with the four decadent pieces as well, same sort of tone and stuff. I decided to make purple sort of the main color, I guess, so I did all of the horns in purple. This purple I also mixed up myself, so it is a custom color, and it's exactly what I wanted from the purple. It's not too dark and it's not too light either. Of course it dries a little bit darker, but I think it turned out really well. So basically just going over the horns and painting them all purple, and then at the end I'm going to be adding a little bit more of a gradient and also some opaling to the horns, just to make it a bit more fantasy-like and give it a little bit more of a pop. So once the purple is dry, like mostly dry, I can then go in and start adding that ombre-ish effect to the end of the horns. And I only really did this to the main big horns because I wanted to keep the smaller ones like part of a transition to the scale, whereas the larger horns I wanted to do that ombre color. So just basically going in with some white and sort of feathering it out towards the as it goes closer to the base of the skull or the head. I'm just feathering it out with a dryish sort of brush. Also just adding some white to the nostrils to make it stand out, and then I can start going in with that opaling that I was talking about before. So the head is nice and dry at the moment, and then I can start adding that opaling. So I have a paint that's kind of like a pearlescent silver white, like a really light silver, and that is by the brand Lumiere, the Jacquard by Lumiere by Jacquard. And I've got some like, it's like a nail art stuff, where you go over your nails with like sort of like this opaling pigment stuff, and it works really well when you mix it in with the paint, and it adds like it makes it look like an opal, I guess, and it just gives it a nice little effect. So that's that one done. The second one is an open mouth one, so it's a little bit more work casting these ones and just sort of finishing off all the edges. So I sort of got to finish off the edges inside the mouth with some epoxy sculpt just to close those gaps where the cast will sit against each other, and also just finishing off the back as well where those pore spouts are, and just adding some details and stuff to the back of that. Epoxy sculpt is really great, and you can smooth it out with just water. It sets pretty fast, I guess. I think you have about like an hour to 2 hour work time depending on what your room temperature is. But I find it really, really handy for a lot of things, and it dries really hard. I have a video if you want to know more about epoxy sculpt as well. So same sort of painting technique with this dragon, where I'm going in and painting the mouth first. So just leaving it a nice pastel pink color. I left it kind of just the pastel pink color because I didn't want it to be too realistic, if that makes sense. I just wanted it a nice like flat pastel color, and then I wanted the detailing on the outside to sort of overshadow that. So again, going in with that Derivative Matisse pastel pink color, and also making the teeth white, and I added a little bit of a wash over the ends just to make them a bit more yellowed, because the stark white teeth look a bit weird when they're just like flat white. So you definitely want to add a wash over the top of teeth to get that realistic color. So I'm going over with the white coloring, even though the primer that I use is white. I want to go over with a nice proper paint. So going over that whole skin area with the white paint, waiting for it to dry, and then I can start painting in all of the horns. So again, all these pastel colors apart from the pink are hand custom made, so mixed, I guess, because I wanted, again, certain colors, and I wanted the coloring to sort of match with each other, so the pasteling to match with each other. So I decided to mix them, which took quite a bit of time when you're mixing a whole bunch of different colors to match each other, and then going in and painting like a rainbow selection on the horns. So I had to go in and work out how I wanted the rainbowing on the horns, and so there was enough horns and scales to accommodate the coloring as well. So I sort of went through and marked the horns what color I wanted them to be, just really, really lightly with some grey lead in inconspicuous spaces, and then just proceeded from there. So going in and filling in the entire horn area. Started off with the blue because I wanted the back to be purple, and that's sort of the largest paint to begin with. So I started off with the blue and worked my way up to the pink, and then left the purple for last because that was going to be the main colour of the horns, or the most horns that were single colour. So again, just painting with my different brush sizes. And you sort of have to be a bit careful with where you're applying the paint. So normally if I'm applying faux fur to faces, I don't have to be too careful because the fur will cover anything that you put on the face unless it's exposed, whereas this one, especially because it's white, you have to just take a bit of time and make sure you're not sort of going over the areas that are going to be white, especially with colors like pink, because they bleed through white. So I might take the time just to say these ones are currently available in my shop as well. They're sort of like a centerpiece type thing. You could also display them under a glass dome, or even on a wall. If you have like a hook or something, you could put it underneath the jawline and sort of hang it up like that. But it was meant to be more of a centerpiece display, or something on the shelf display. So yeah, these two pieces are available along with some of my other pieces from the Decadence sets. So I do have payment plans available as well. So if you want a piece or a couple of pieces, just shoot me an email either on my Facebook, Instagram, or preferably my website, and I can just give you a little heads up on how I do payment plans. I'm super flexible as well, so I always try and accommodate people and give them the best sort of deal that I can do, or the best plan that I can do. So you can check that out at creaturesofnat.com. And yeah, I really like this piece, and I really liked doing decadent pieces as well, so I kind of want to incorporate that into some of my art because I've always wanted to do it, and yeah, definitely liked it. Anyway, back to the process. So once I've done all of these horns, I decided to go in with a little wash over that white because I thought it was a bit flat. So I just watered down a really thin sort of sepia tone color and just went over the white bits with that, so it sort of sinks into all of the details like the scales and the eyes. Onto the opaling, same deal as the other one, using that Lumiere paint and also adding the opal things to the horns as well. So that's pretty much it for today's video. Just a little nice painting video of the pieces that I've done. You can check me out on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at Creatures of Nat, my shop, creaturesofnat.com, and thank you to my patrons for supporting me. I really appreciate it. Head over to my Patreon for heaps of other things and perks, and I'll check you in the next one. Bye!